Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 10-team PPR mock draft from the 3rd overall spot on YahooFantasy.com. In today's video, we're going to be talking about my thought process going through a 10-team PPR mock draft and my feelings towards why I'm making my picks, as well as my opinion on the other picks going on around me. But before we get on into this mock draft, I would like to ask you guys that if you do end up enjoying today's video and you are new to my YouTube channel, to please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship, and whether you are new to my YouTube channel or not, please make sure to hit that like button down below to help boost this video up the algorithm so that more beautiful people like yourself can see today's video. I would also like to ask that if you guys do enjoy reading content about fantasy football, to please make sure to check out the pinned comment or the link in the description to my articles on awesemo.com. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first pick of the draft was Christian McCaffrey, followed by Dalvin Cook. So now we are up on the board here, and my number 3 overall running back and my number 3 overall player on the board is Alvin Kamara, running back of the New Orleans Saints. Now, typically in drafts, there is a 1-2 punch right off the rip. Basically, every single time I do a mock draft, it's McCaffrey 1 and Dalvin Cook 2. Basically, every single time is Christian McCaffrey. The number 2 overall pick could change in some drafts, but a majority of the time it is Dalvin Cook. So at number 3, the door was really wide open there. I could have went with a myriad of running backs that were still available on the board, but I went ahead and drafted Alvin Kamara. I believe that with Jameis Winston under center and with Michael Thomas missing some serious time in this season, Alvin Kamara's numbers are going to be absolutely fucking insane. Alvin Kamara to me is one of the only running backs in the NFL that can rush for 1,000 yards as well as get 1,000 receiving yards. He is on a team that is just destined to funnel this man the ball. Now, if Taysom Hill becomes the starter of this team, which I highly doubt he will, which it doesn't seem like he will, then taking Alvin Kamara at the number 3 overall spot will be the most foolish thing you ever do. It will be, because Taysom Hill calls his own number when they're close in the red zone. He's going to, instead of dumping it off, he'll just try to run the ball himself. So that is worrisome. But it appears that Jameis Winston is going to be the guy in New Orleans at the quarterback position, which bodes very well for Alvin Kamara because he actually checks the ball down. And the fact that Michael Thomas is hurt, we could be seeing Alvin Kamara seeing 10 plus targets a game. Because if you look at Alvin Kamara's stats without Michael Thomas in the game, in the past, Alvin Kamara is potentially getting like 7 plus targets every single game, which is just free points in a PPR league. After Alvin Kamara came Tyreek Hill, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley, Aaron Jones, Stephon Diggs, Travis Kelce, and Antonio Gibson. Very interesting to see where Travis Kelce goes in every single draft, and a majority of them at this point on Yahoo, he goes inside of the first round, but don't be surprised to see him slip into the second round. But if you are in the first round and you're at that pick 9, 10 in that range, or maybe even 8 when you want to consider him, don't miss on him. If you want him, you're going to have to take him in the first round. So if you're confident that you want Travis Kelce, make sure you take him in the first round, because it's not in every single draft that he's going to fall into the second. After Gibson came Austin Eckler. So the first round, unlike in most drafts, we actually see be even more running back heavy. Typically, like 2 non-running backs go off the board inside, or maybe even 3, sometimes even 4 inside of the first round that are not running backs. But this time, only 1 non-running back going inside the first round at number 4, being Tyreek Hill, which to me is pretty fucking insane to draft Tyreek Hill there over Derrick Henry, who's still on the board. But you know, whatever floats your boat, Mr. Lewis. So after Austin Eckler comes Joe Mixon, Najee Harris, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So since everyone is taking running backs, this is when you go ahead and draft a wide receiver, because the value on the board at the wide receiver position right now is amazing. For some reason, Yahoo has Davante Adams ranked way too low here. They should have him way over Calvin Ridley, and in my opinion, Davante Adams should be ranked as the number 1 overall wide receiver in fantasy. With Aaron Rodgers back, man, oh man, it is going to be so beautiful there in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers to Davante Adams is one of those combos. It's like peanut butter and fucking jelly. That's how safe That's how reliable that combo is in 2021. I expect Davante Adams to have yet another elite year. Typically, he won't be available there, so I understand that if he's not there, I would have probably drafted Calvin Ridley, because Calvin Ridley is obviously getting drafted outside of the top 3 wide receivers, but I believe outside of those top 3, he has the best shot to finish as the number 1 overall wide receiver in fantasy football in 2021. After Davante Adams, we see DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf, and Justin Jefferson. So after a huge run at the running back position, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wide receivers off the board in a row. So after that wide receiver run here, we're going to go ahead and hop in on the tight end train. I like A.J. Brown. I like Terry McLaurin. I like Allen Robinson. But you know what I like even more in a 10-team league? Drafting an early on tight end. I have had a straight-up epiphany this offseason, and that is the epiphany that drafting a tight end early is actually really fucking good, especially in a 10-team league where, you know, everyone kind of has a pretty good team. Now, in an 8-team league, everyone's team is stacked to the gills. Everyone has a God squad. But the teams that typically finish higher there are the teams that have that elite tight end, that have that positional advantage at tight end. And I believe that if someone finishes as the number 1 overall tight end that's not Travis Kelce, it is going to be Darren Waller, because of the insane amount of volume he gets in Las Vegas for the Raiders. He is the best receiving option on this team, and he plays tight end, and he is going to be fed all game long. I heavily believe in Darren Waller, and I think a lot of people really discredit Derek Carr. And I'm not saying Derek Carr is fucking Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady or one of those better quarterbacks in the league. He's not, you know, Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, one of those guys. But Derek Carr is still a very serviceable quarterback, and he's going to do what he needs to do to save his job for another year, and that's throw the ball 7 zillion times to Darren Waller. So I'm very excited to get him on my team. A very interesting start. Normally in the first 3 rounds, I'm looking to draft 2 to 3 running backs, because I believe that there is a strong running back fall off after about the 2nd round. But with how many running backs were coming off the board, I found extreme volume getting Davante Adams there, and then in the 3rd round, even more value getting Darren Waller, who is a tight end that you could see go in the 2nd round in some drafts. So I'm very excited to have the team we got now with Alvin Kamara, Davante Adams, and Darren Waller. After I went with Darren Waller came Patrick Mahomes, David Montgomery, A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, Allen Robinson, Josh Allen, J.K. Dobbins, George Kittle, and C.D. Lamb. Holy fuck, did Josh Allen get paid. Josh Allen got, I believe, $258 million yesterday. 100+ million guaranteed. Wow. And I'm not saying wow because I believe that that's some type of an overpay, because the cap is supposed to get a lot bigger next year, and quarterbacks are going to continue to keep getting paid more. So maybe the Bills got a steal on Josh Allen when we look down the road in a couple of years. I know all the old heads are going to say, oh man, Josh Allen is a schmuck. You know that guy Tom Brady, he always takes the pay cut. And I kind of agree with you. If you want to win a championship, you kind of want to take the pay cut. Get the players around you to get better. But at the end of the day, Josh Allen got his bag. He got his money. Who cares? I'm happy for Josh Allen, and he is definitely worthy of being the number 2 quarterback off the board, in my opinion. In the 3rd round, maybe not, because typically if I'm going to draft a quarterback early, to me, the 5th round is when I'm willing to pull the trigger. Earlier on, I feel like I'm really trying to get that running back, that wide receiver depth, and if I take a quarterback that early, I feel like it really dampens that. So after Allen came J.K. Dobbins, George Kittle, C.D. Lamb, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift, Chris Carson, Josh Jacobs, and T.J. Hockenson. So we're back up on the board here with just 1 running back. So we're probably going to want to get at least 1 running back on the roster relatively soon before things start to get really dampened. Because right here, I'm not all sold in on any of these running backs, but after this range, things start to go down the hill. So we're going to go with Darrell Henderson here, running back of the Los Angeles Rams. Now, it is still not 100% carved out that this is going to be the Darrell Henderson backfield in 2021. There's still a shot that Sean McVay gets on his cell phone and calls up his boy Todd Gurley and tells him to come home. He gets on his phone, dials Le'Veon Bell's number, and Le'Veon Bell jet skis from Miami all the way up to LA. But based upon what we know at the current moment, Darrell Henderson seems to be the guy in LA, and based upon some of the reports I've seen out of practice, is that he is going to be getting the lion's share of carries because he is by far and away the most dominant back in this backfield. We all really liked Cam Akers, and we're happy to draft him in the 1st round. I'm not saying Darrell Henderson is Cam Akers, but getting him inside the 3rd round in a role that should be getting a lot of volume with Matthew Stafford taking this team to the next level, I'm excited to draft Henderson inside of the 4th round. After Darrell Henderson came Miles Sanders, Kareem Hunt, and Lamar Jackson. So we're 1 pick away from being back up on the board if Myles Gaskin or Mike Davis are available. Obviously, one of them should be because there's only 1 pick ahead of us. I'm going to be selecting one of those guys. Amari Cooper comes off the board. Looking at wide receiver first, though, before we make a bit of a rash decision. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Robert Woods. I like all of these wide receivers, but I'm fine waiting yet another round and drafting a super high upside wide receiver there. So we're going to get our 3rd running back on this team that I feel ultra safe with, and it's either Mike Davis or Myles Gaskin. You can basically just flip a coin and select one of them. I'm going to draft Mike Davis here. I'm starting to feel like I'm going to need to move Mike Davis up even higher in my rankings. I genuinely believe Mike Davis has top 12 potential in Atlanta. I think Myles Gaskin does as well in Miami, because we saw last year Myles Gaskin be a top 12 back in a lot of those games for Miami, and Mike Davis, we saw him do the same thing in Carolina. Obviously, a scenery change for Mike Davis going from the Panthers to the Atlanta Falcons, but this is even better because if he was still on the Carolina Panthers, no one would be drafting Mike Davis because he'd be holding Christian McCaffrey's jockstrap or something. But now in Atlanta, he's going to be the lead back there in Atlanta. I believe this team is going to be pretty solid offensively. The defense is a dumpster fire, so they're going to have to be passing a lot late in the games, but Mike Davis is still a solid enough pass catcher to be getting his own there, and I think he should be pretty solid in Atlanta. After Mike Davis came Chase Edmonds, Chris Godwin, Robert Woods, Tyler Lockett, and Myles Gaskin. I don't know how people are drafting Tyler Lockett, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans over Julio Jones. Now, I understand that Julio Jones is no longer 22 years old. He's getting up there in age, but he has shown recently zilch sign of regression, that he was going to just fall off the face of the earth. I believe Julio Jones is a complete steal inside of the 4th and the 5th round, and someone took Adam Thielen ahead of him. I genuinely do not understand that at all. Now, I understand that some people will make an argument that, hey, Nick, the Tennessee Titans really like to run the ball. And I understand. They do like to run the ball with Derrick Henry. But you wouldn't bring in Julio Jones. You wouldn't trade for Julio Jones if you planned on him just holding the fucking clipboard on the sideline. You want to know why you brought him in? To be the perfect complement to A.J. Brown. Being what Corey Davis was, but a million times fucking better. Right now, I am drafting Julio Jones with complete and utter confidence. I understand he is kind of banged up in practice right now, but it does appear to be nothing serious. There have been no reports of anything being super serious. In other news, a player I forgot to talk about earlier on in the video, Justin Jefferson getting drafted inside the 3rd round, sustained an injury in practice yesterday. Not something looked at as serious, going to be missing some time, but nothing that should take him out for any games of the NFL regular season. After ETN came Kyle Pitts, DJ Moore, Mark Andrews, and Julio Jones finally getting picked inside of the 6th round. That is an extreme steal. I like how Joseph constructed his team, but I completely disagree with where he was picking these players. Like Josh Jacobs, you don't need to take him inside of the 4th round. I'd rather have Chris Carson or something, but I probably would have drafted a wide receiver to pair with this threesome of running backs that he has with Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, and David Montgomery. Imagine if he drafted a Keenan Allen and then down here drafts Julio Jones. Oh, man. I mean, I guess he got Julio Jones in the 6th round, so he didn't have to do that. But, man, that team could be looking a lot better. So we're on the board here. We're definitely going with wide receiver. The running backs really do fall off after the 2nd round going into the 3rd round. But after the 5th round, the 6th round, typically, things start to really get bad. So looking at wide receiver here, we're just going to go with a tried and true pick. I think that's the saying for my channel, for me as a fantasy football player. I love Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson looked really good in the Hall of Fame game a few days ago. Obviously, the Hall of Fame game, we're not going to see Deontay Johnson play a whole game, but he didn't have any drops in those games. I know people worry a lot about drops in this offense. I believe Deontay Johnson is Big Ben's favorite target, and if the Steelers are as pass-heavy as they were last season, you're going to love getting Deontay inside of this 6th or 7th round. Johnson is certainly far from a sexy pick. A lot of people, he's more of a polarizing pick where either you hate Deontay Johnson or you love him. I'm in the love boat for Deontay Johnson. I think this team's going to be very pass heavy. Deontay Johnson was getting funneled, force-fed targets all of last season. I believe we're going to see something similar in 2021. After Deontay Johnson came Russell Wilson, James Robinson, Jamar Chase, and Logan Thomas. So after those big tight ends come off the board, after the Kelsey, after the Waller, after the Hawkinson, after the Pitts, after the Kittle, and after the Mark Andrews, you know what I'm doing? I'm just waiting. I'm just closing my eyes. We're going to wait all the way to the end of the draft to draft a tight end because I think taking a pick in the 7th, 8th, 9th round, they're all such similar tight ends that I'd rather just continue to wait. So looking at the wide receiver position here with Kenny Golladay kind of banged up in practice, we kind of have a tiebreaker there because Kenny Golladay should be perfectly healthy for the start of the season, but him being banged up last year, getting banged up in practice, in training camp, doesn't sound the best for Kenny Golladay, so I'm going to go with the more high upside option. If you want to be safe, I think Kenny Golladay should be pretty good, but when you hear injuries in training camp, maybe you want to stray away, especially with something that Kenny Golladay had. I'm going to go ahead and read the report here. Kenny Golladay, hamstring, probably missing 2 to 3 weeks. When a guy hurts his hamstring in training camp, that typically is not the greatest. But to reiterate, I'm not telling you right now not to draft Kenny Golladay because I think Kenny Golladay is still a fine pick where he is going because the fact is that the upside of this offense is baked into his ADP. Kenny Golladay, to me, is one of the most talented wide receivers in the NFL, but he's on a shitty team with a bad quarterback. So that's baked into his ADP. His ADP might continue to fall if things change about the injury, if news comes out that it's really bad. Where we're sitting right now, I'm fine drafting Kenny Golladay, but obviously if there are any type of setbacks in the next week or two and he doesn't come back on time, then the warning sirens are firing at all cylinders. I went with T. Higgins because I believe the upside is just so strong there. Now, apparently the Bengals and Joe Burrow have been struggling in practice, and the reason behind this is because the offensive line is a foldable fucking table. It is one of those things that when you go to get on the subway in New York, it's like that turnstile type of thing, and if you've ever seen those videos online where people just hop over the turnstile, that's basically what they're doing over the offensive line in Cincinnati. The Cincinnati Bengals don't even have a great defense, and that defense is absolutely bending the offensive line over a table and just eating Joe Burrow for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which is very, very worrisome. But I think that Joe Burrow figures his thing out because there's been reports that maybe he's not fully committed to stepping into things, to running the ball, because he's worried about his leg that got hurt, and that is very understandable. But with all of that said, I'm confident the team will be able to figure something out. Joe Burrow played with a shitty offensive line last year and was still pretty solid. With this defense being so shit, they're going to have to pass the ball a lot late in the game, which is going to give a lot of opportunity to T. Higgins, which is why I selected him ultimately there at that spot. I'm going to go ahead and move myself to the top of the board so that you guys can see the whole draft board down here. So after I went with Mr. Titty Boy T. Higgins, Trey Sermon came off the board, followed by Dak Prescott, Ronald Jones, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts, Odell Beckham Jr., Kenny Golladay, Justin Herbert, the pervert, and the Los Angeles defense. If you guys are out there and you like to draft a defense early, I'm going to tell you exactly why you don't want to do that. Because the defense that you think is going to be so great all year long, guess what? They have hard opponents during their schedule. The best thing to do on defense is to draft a defense and then just draft them for week 1. Draft them based upon their week 1 matchup, and then week 2, if they have a harder matchup, you just cut them. And another big thing about defenses is if they're really good the year before, a lot of the time there's turnover. If they were the best defense, typically they don't finish as the best defense again. And when you're drafting them inside of the 8th round, where you can get a wide receiver that could potentially start in your lineup week in and week out, or maybe a high upside running back, or your tight end, or your quarterback, to me, it is a little bit foolish. After drafting the Rams defense came the Washington football team, Tampa Bay Tom Brady, Brandon Ayuk, Tyler Higbee, and the Steelers defense. So we are back up on the board here, and we're probably going to lean running back at this pick if I see anyone available that I like. So here I'm going to go ahead and draft Damien Harris, running back of the New England Patriots. If you guys have been watching my mock drafts for a while, you know that I love Damien Harris. I draft him basically every time in this range of running backs. I'm not in love with Javonte Williams Williams because I believe that Melvin Gordon will be very involved in this backfield. But something that I do want to actually advise you guys is that when you go into your draft, you might want to take some players that maybe you don't really like. Especially if you're drafting in like 10 leagues. If you're in one league, then just go ahead with your brain and throw it all out there and believe in what you believe. But there is obviously a scenario where Melvin Gordon gets hurt and Javonte Williams tears it up. But the reason why I'm fading Javonte Williams is because I personally believe that Melvin Gordon on the last year of his contract is going to get fed into the ground, meaning this guy is going to get worked so much because at the end of the year, they're not going to bring him back. They're just going to use Javonte Williams, who they don't have to pay really anything for because he's on that rookie contract. In 2022, Javonte Williams eats, but in 2021, without an injury to Melvin Gordon, I think he is going to really struggle to get on the field a lot during these games. I went with Damien Williams because while there is a huge stink about drafting Patriots running backs because they always use the running back by committee, they like to use a bunch of guys. I understand, but a lot of reports from the coaching there is that Damien Harris is their guy, so I'm going to believe in that. I saw Damien Harris play pretty well last year, and I think he could do it even better this year, especially with a stronger defense in New England, as well as better offensive play overall. So looking at the quarterbacks here, not really trying to draft a quarterback inside of the 9th round normally, which is exactly why we're going to do it this time, because some value fell our way, and we're going to be able to get Aaron Rodgers inside of the 9th round. Now, normally in fantasy football, I like to continue to wait. I play the waiting game, and I get that late round quarterback that I believe has a bunch of upside, that Joe Burrow, that Matthew Stafford, maybe 2-3 rounds from now. And maybe if I don't get those guys, then I do a complete punt at the quarterback position, and I match a Trevor Lawrence with a Trey Lance, with a Tua Tagovailoa, or maybe I continue to wait even longer, and I draft a guy like Jameis Winston, who has just the craziest of potential to maybe throw 50 fucking touchdowns next year, even if he throws 50 interceptions with it. But the most important thing to do when mock drafting is not following the same exact strategy every single time. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I love drafting 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds because I believe there is a fall off at the running back position after that, and there is a statistical fall off. The bust rate at running backs gets much worse the deeper down you get in the draft. So obviously you want to load up on them earlier. But we didn't do that in this one. We went with Alvin Kamara, then we went Adams, then we went Waller, then we dipped our toes back in on the running back position. So it's important to try these different strategies. Drafting a quarterback a little bit earlier than normal is something I don't typically do, but I'm very excited to get Aaron Rodgers on my team inside of the 9th round when this Green Bay Packers team is on fire. I have Aaron Rodgers and I have Davante Adams. Whichever team I play against is going to be getting bulldozed, getting bent over the table, and getting Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams to hit them with the good old 1-2 fucking Floyd Mayweather to the jaw with their fists. I love Aaron Rodgers at this pick. I think Aaron Rodgers has top 5 quarterback potential. Most people in fantasy nowadays, they talk about the Konami quarterback. The quarterback that rushes the ball has the most high upside. But you want to know what else has high upside? When your quarterback is going to throw for 35 touchdowns, 40 touchdowns, 45 touchdowns, and barely throw any interceptions, and has the potential to throw for 5,000 yards. That's what you're looking at in the quarterback position as well. Just because Aaron Rodgers isn't going to go out there and make some highlight plays by juking out the defenders like Kyler Murray, like a guy like Lamar Jackson can do, it does not matter, because at the end of the day, all you're looking for is those stats. Those passing yards are important too, and Aaron Rodgers is going to put up a whole lot of those in 2021. After we went ahead and drafted Mr. Discount Double Check Aaron Rodgers, Justin Tucker the fucker came off the board, followed by Robbie Anderson, Leonard Fournette, Harrison Butker, Chase Claypool, Zach Moss, A.J. Dillon, James Conner, Cortland Sutton, Juju Smith-Schuster, Melvin Gordon, Deebo Samuel, and Raheem Mostert. We already got our quarterback, so we're not going to draft another one of those. We already got our tight end, so we're not going to draft another one of those. So it's just basically, from here on out, a assault on the running back and wide receiver position. Looking at the running back position, not ultra in love with any of those players. Looking at wide receiver, I do really like Jerry Jeudy here of the Denver Broncos. A lot of reports are continuing to come out about Cortland Sutton struggling in training camp, that when he tore his ACL afterwards, you're training up against the air. That's what Vic Fangio's saying. You're playing up against the air, but when there's real dudes on the defense, he's starting to struggle, and that's okay. It's understandable. He was hurt. He should be fine in a couple of weeks, but that even further solidifies my opinion on Jerry Jeudy potentially having a humongous bounce back season. Last year, this guy had so many targets. He was just dropping them. The quarterback play was shit. Apparently, Drew Lock's actually looking good out of camp. I'll believe it when I see it, if I'm being honest with you. But I do think that Drew Lock could definitely have a much better year in 2021. And guess what? If he doesn't, they'll just tug him out of there, and they're going to throw in Mr. Teddy Two Gloves, Teddy Bridgewater, back up on the board here. And let's see. We already have how many running backs? We got 1, 2, 3 running backs. We have a bunch of wide receivers. So we're going to go back in on the running back train here. And while I didn't say I was super in love with those guys, I'm happy drafting them inside of the 11th round. And this is Gus Bus Edwards, running back of the Baltimore Ravens. But I have taken him in a lot of mocks. So we're going to go with Kenyon Drake here, who I think is also getting severely underrated here because while Josh Jacobs is the guy there, I 100% agree with that statement. What kind of gets swept under the rug is that why did they bring in Kenyon Drake? To me, it's because maybe Gruden doesn't believe in Josh Jacobs. And even if he does, even if he feeds Josh Jacobs is a failure in the pass catching game. For some reason, they just don't feed him the ball there. He's a fine pass catcher. And I think Kenyon Drake is going to eat into that. Kenyon Drake is also one of the best handcuffs in fantasy football. While he did burn you guys last year in Arizona, he wasn't complete shit, but I kind of hyped him up, and he was not very good at all, if I'm being honest with you. But he is still a solid running back, and as the backup here in Las Vegas, if he was ever to be called upon because of an injury to Josh Jacobs, this guy could really feast. So I'm fine drafting him inside of the 11th round. I think he has some value week in and week out, especially with the receiving ability that he has. We are about 25-ish minutes into this video, so if you guys have ended up enjoying thus far, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out these videos every single day to help you guys win your 2021 fantasy football championship. So our team is looking mighty fine at this point in the draft. Let me pull myself up. I don't know why Yahoo, when you click on teams, just doesn't show your own team instantly, because that's probably what you're looking for. But I digress. We got quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Our wide receivers are Deontay Johnson and Devontae Adams. Our running backs are Alvin Kamara and Darrell Henderson. Our tight end is Darren Waller. Our flex is Mike Davis. Our bench is comprised of T. Higgins, Damien Harris, Jerry Jeudy, and Kenyon Drake. If I'm being honest with you guys, this may be the best lineup I have drafted in a 10-team league thus far in my mock draft videos. This team is making my eyes ejaculate. It's beautiful. It really is. This is a team that if I drafted in a real draft, I would have zero confidence, or I would have 100% confidence that I was going to win this league. I was going to say that I would have a 0% chance of thinking any other team would win this league besides me. This team is amazing. It is simply beautiful. So looking at the draft board, looking around, Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow, Brandon Cooks, Greg the Leg Zuerlein, Devontae Smith, San Fran defense, Robert Tonyan, Gus Bus Edwards, Adam Troutman, Curtis Samuel, and Antonio Brown. Seeing Michael Thomas go in the 11th round, that is a very solid pick, because while he's going to be missing potentially 7 games on the season, that wouldn't surprise me at all. You can put him on your bench. He's on your, or if you have IR spots in your league, especially, even better, you throw him in your IR. After the draft, you add a new wide receiver. He plays the role of Michael Thomas early, and then you can play Michael Thomas later on in the season where he has tons of value because he's the wide receiver 1 on the Saints. Here we're to go running back again, double dip in on those running backs. Get Jamal with 2 A's. Williams, running back of the Detroit Lions. DeAndre Swift, I think he is a very talented running back, but at the end of the day, Jamal Williams, there's a lot of talk about Jamal Williams and how good he is out of this camp. Reports are that Dan Campbell wants to use both of these running backs, use the hot hand approach, use the 1-2 punch, the 1A, 1B, which sounds great for Jamal Williams, but doesn't sound the best for DeAndre Swift. So I love this pick here late on in the draft. Jamal Williams, also a pretty solid running back. We've seen him in the past in Green Bay. Obviously, not some elite talent, but he is still definitely a serviceable running back. Someone really no one talks about. I don't know what I just clicked on. This is what I was looking for. Devin Singletary is so underrated at this point. I hate Devin Singletary, and I will go to the grave saying that Devin Singletary is an absolute shit tier running back. But the fact is, in the 13th round, he could easily be the lead back in Buffalo this year. I like Zach Moss way better, but going inside the 13th round, he's certainly worth a late round flyer. Here in the 13th round, we're going to close out our draft with a wide receiver, then go kicker and defense. So we're going to go with Michael Gallup here. Obviously, I went with the Colts defense because I didn't click the draft button fast enough. That is what you would describe as a tough scene. I apologize to you guys. That is not what I normally would want to do here, but at least it makes the rest of the rounds more interesting because I'm going to go ahead and take a wide receiver in the next round. I would have went with Michael Gallup because while he's the wide receiver 3 there, he's probably going to have 6+ games this season where he is dominant for fantasy football because the defense still sucks in Dallas, regardless of the fact that they redrafted it. They tried to build it all back up. You know, you can't just rebuild the whole defense in a draft and it worked the first season. That's not how things work in the NFL. So they'll probably struggle this year. They'll probably not be the best, and they're going to have to throw the ball a whole lot. If Dak is able to stay healthy, I know he's hurt already in practice, which is not the greatest of news. Very bad news, actually, but Michael Gallup should still be able to be fine. He had a down year last year with the emergence of CeeDee Lamb basically going from the ground directly to the fucking moon with how well he played. I still believe that Michael Gallup is still talented enough to be a late round pick. I also like Marvin Jones. Not all sold in on DJ Chark. Jarvis Landry, to me, is a fine pick, but normally later on in the draft, I'm hunting for that super high upside play, and to me, Jarvis Landry is he's just Jarvis Landry, right? Not the Jarvis Landry of the Dolphins, where this guy's like a top 12 wide receiver in fantasy. He's just a safe wide receiver on a very run-heavy team, which is just not something I'm genuinely looking to be targeting this late on in the draft. We did get the Colts defense on our team, which is something I didn't want to do, but the way to draft a defense, like I said earlier, is to just draft a defense playing a not-so-hot opponent week 1, a defense that is going to potentially get turnovers, get fumbles, get sacks, because the offensive line or the offense of the other team is going to struggle. And then in week number 2, you just cut them if they have a harder opponent, and then you just play someone new week 2. I make videos every single week during the season titled Defenses to Stream every week so that you guys know exactly which defenses to be playing. And I will be making a video in probably a week or 2 about must draft defenses because of their opponents in week number 1. So we are going to go ahead and snag a wide receiver with this pick. We're not going to be able to get the guy that I wanted in Michael Gallup because someone picked him, but you know, it is what it is at this point. That was my fault for not clicking on fast enough. That is what sucks about recording because I'm talking the whole time. I'm just shouting things out to the stratosphere. How many people are watching 30 minutes plus into a mock draft? Probably not that many, but if you are watching thus far, comment down below Jarvis Landry, and I will know that you made it this year. Or comment down Jarvis Landry. I would really appreciate that. It would let me know how many people make it deep on in to this video. We're not going to go Jarvis Landry, though. We are going to go ahead and draft Corey Davis. Now, Corey Davis is one of those guys that has been touted as a bust for a majority of his career, but last year, he lit it up. But the team didn't give him that new contract in Tennessee, so he moves on to the Jets. Could potentially be the wide receiver 1 there. Things out of camp looking good for Zach Wilson, so pretty promising to get Corey Davis here this late in the draft. Not super high upside, though, obviously, because the Jets are going to be using a bunch of wide receivers, but maybe he does become the number 1 guy there, and you got some solid value there inside of the 14th round. So final pick of the draft is going to be a kicker. I have yet to make my kicker rankings. Those will be available relatively soon, and I'll probably make a video on that as well, talking up these kickers and telling you which ones I like. I love Jason Sanders. Now that I said that, he'll probably get taken here. He is the kicker of my Miami Dolphins. The dude was automatic last season. He was barely missing, so I'm pretty excited to get him on my team here if I'm able to select him. Obviously, though, the Dolphins should be converting a little bit more this season with how good Tua looks, which could hurt Jason Sanders, but he's also going to be getting more of those point after attempts, more of those PATs, because we should be scoring more, which should be exciting for myself as a Dolphins fan, and I do like Jason Sanders a lot. I also like my boy Rodrigo. You sunk my Blankenship with those glasses. He's just a certified fucking beauty. I love Mr. Rodrigo Blankenship. Certified beauty, like, because I'm a full-on frat star, beer guy, notorious fantasy. That's me. So after Michael Gallup came off the board back here, Naheem Hines came off the board, followed by Devontae Parker, Phillip Lindsay, Mike Licky on my Gesicki on New England defense, Will Lutz, Denver defense, Irv Smith, Corey Davis, Michael Pittman Jr., Austin Hoopa, and I will fast forward to the end of the draft where I'm going to talk about any of these other picks if they're not kickers or defenses. The only picks of note inside the 15th round were Trevor Lawrence and Gronk. I think a lot of people are hating on Gronk, but if you draft Tunyon, I'm not really looking to draft a backup tight end. Trevor Lawrence, I like, but if I'm drafting Matthew Stafford, I'm also not looking to draft a backup quarterback. But that's just how the cookie went on and crumbled inside of this one. So looking at our roster at the end of the draft, quarterback Aaron Rodgers, wide receivers are Devontae Adams and Deontay Johnson, running backs Alvin Kamara, Darrell Henderson, tight end Darren Waller, flex Mike Davis. Our bench is comprised of Titty Boy, T. Higgins, Damien Harris, Jerry Jeudy, Kenyon Drake, Jamal Williams, and Corey Davis. Our kicker is Jason Sanders, and our defense was accidentally selected by the computer because I couldn't shut my big fucking mouth, and I got Indianapolis Colts defense for some reason. I could not talk right there. So let me know what you guys thought about this team. I think the fact that we went, let's see exactly how we did this because I don't want to say it wrong. We went running back, wide receiver, tight end. That is a very, very solid team. This is one of the best teams I've drafted in a 10-team draft, so that's why you guys got to try out all these different strategies. Normally, like I said at the beginning of the video, I like to go 2 out of 3 running backs in the first 3 rounds, but I didn't do that at all, and I still love the team. So make sure that when you guys are mocking, to try out different strategies. I do love you guys all. Thank you so much for watching. There should be another video later. Hopefully, make sure you check out my articles again. That is the best way you can help me. Besides hitting subscribe and like and commenting, the next best thing is by clicking on those articles. It helps me out a ton. If you are a supporter of mine, you like my videos, please just check those out. It really does help me out a ton. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Saturday. It's the fucking weekend, baby. We're going to go have a fun time. I'm going out tonight. As you guys are watching this, I'm recording this at 1 in the morning. So, probably need to go to sleep, but thank you guys again for all of the support recently. I'm going to rant here, so you can just click off if you don't want to hear me rant, but thank you guys so much for the support. The subscriber numbers are insane recently, and it means everything to me. Thank you guys, because just so you know that I make these videos for you guys. I make them for fun too, because I like having fun, but without you guys, there is no me, because do or do not. There is no try. That sounded like fucking Yoda right there. But without you guys clicking on these videos, eventually, I would have just given up. Being serious, there's no reason to make all these videos I make every single day if no one listens. So that's why I make them. I make them for you guys. I make them because I appreciate all of you guys. And I genuinely do hope that all of you guys at the end of the year win your leagues. I'll try my best to do that. So make sure that you're subscribed and make sure you're staying for the content in the long haul because I'm going to help you guys all season long. I love you guys. Thank you so much for the support. It means the world to me. Thank you guys. I love you guys. Make sure that you stay safe as always. Goodbye.